Hey everyone, I'm Victoria, and thank you so much for joining me for this update on the disappearance of DeAngelo Shaquille LaPaul Allen, who also goes by D. I haven't talked about D in a while, and part of the reason was because at first there really wasn't a lot of new information about his disappearance or what may have happened to him. And then whenever new information did come out, I wasn't completely sure how to handle it quite yet. There was a lot of pieced together information, lots of bits and pieces all over the place, and I've managed to, with time, put it together, and with the help of Dee's family, who has given great resources between their Facebook page, their TikTok page, all of that. I haven't reached out to them directly, but all of these resources were super helpful. If anyone in Dee's family does by chance see this video and would like to speak with me, or there's any information that I could help share, please feel free to comment on this video and I will reach out to you so that we can talk, because I want to help however I can. So there's a few big things that have happened in Dee's case, and honestly, all of it's heartbreaking. All of it just turns my stomach and makes me so sad for him and his family. D, a 31-year-old man and father of 4, was last seen on September 21st, 2022 in the 1000 block of Old Coldwater Road in Anniston, Alabama. I believe this was where he was staying with his girlfriend, Keither Snyder, and her adult son, Gavin Snyder. Before we dive into these new revelations and the information that I want to share with you in this video, I do want to start by revisiting some of the details of Dee's disappearance. I think the best way to do that is by sharing a series of TikToks that were recorded by DeAngelo's mother, Adisa Pruitt. She recorded these to share the timeline and details of Dee's disappearance, more about Dee, talked about some of the rumors that have been spreading and some of what's happened during the investigation. And honestly, I think she tells it very well. She's obviously a very strong and well-spoken woman, although I'm heartbroken that she has to do all of this to try to get justice for her son. I think hearing it from her is going to be a lot more helpful than me just reiterating what she says in these TikToks, both to get a sense of how much Dee is loved and what the family is going through right now. She's very emotional, and I think that it is just a better representation of the whole situation. And obviously, I want to give DeAngelo and his family the voice here. So before I play these TikToks and we start to go into the details that are outlined here, I do want to make a point of saying that any rumors or speculation are just that. We're going to be talking about some specific people and sharing some different information that has come out. Everything at this moment is alleged and nothing has been proven, and no arrests have been made in relation to Dee's disappearance. So I just want to get that out of the way and have that there before we go into this. With that disclaimer, here is Adisa's story time talking about what's happened so far in the disappearance of her son, DeAngelo.
Okay, so some of you have asked me to do a story time about my son, DeAngelo Allen. We call him D. And he's missing from Anniston, Alabama. He's been missing since September 21st, 2022. And being on social media, this is really outside of my comfort zone. But I had created a Searching for D. Allen page, and I was just trying to put like his missing flyer and pictures of him out there so that people would know that he wasn't home, that we were still looking for him. But I think people wanted to know kind of more of what happened, why he's not home. So DeAngelo is 31 years old, and he was living with his girlfriend at the time and her adult son. So it was not unusual for me to not hear from DeAngelo for a week or two. But what was unusual was for him to not contact his daughter. He had, at that time, a 3-year-old daughter, and he would call her every day, at most every other day. So shortly after the 21st, his baby's mother called me and asked me, had I talked to him? And at that time, the last day that I talked to him was September 15th. He had called me and he asked for some money because he wasn't working, and I had cashed out to him some money. That was September 15th. She had talked to him like September 18th. So by the 22nd, 23rd, she hadn't heard from him, and she began to get worried. So she called me, and I told her, well, let me call around and see if I can find him. At the time, I was working for the Red Cross, and I was about to deploy to help with Hurricane Ian victims. So when I deployed, I was calling from South Alabama, close to the Florida line, calling home to Anniston, to the hospitals, to the jail, to police station, to rehabs, to any place I could think that he might have been, and was not able to find him. I called all of his friends, I called all of his relatives, I called his brothers, I called his dad, and nobody had seen or heard from him. So I'm talking to my oldest son who drives trucks across the road, and I'm telling him, like, it's weird that nobody has seen or talked to him, in the past week or so. So my son said, well, he was coming home that Saturday, and I told him I was going to leave my deployment that Saturday, and we would go out and look for him. So at this point, my oldest son and I have a plan that we're both going to come back home to Anniston that Saturday and look for DeAngelo. So I called his dad and I told him, there's something wrong. Nobody has seen or heard from DeAngelo. I know it's not unusual for his parents to go a week without hearing from him, but he hasn't called his daughter. And now at this point, it had probably been 6 or 7 days since she had heard from him. So his daughter's mother was really alarmed because he called every day. At most, he might skip a day, but he was going to check in on his daughter pretty much every day. And now 6 days had went by and he hadn't called. So she had been going out looking for him while we were out of town and hadn't been able to find him. So I told his dad, I said, you need to go and do a missing persons report. They probably are going to want you to come to the police station. And since I'm deployed and can't go there, you'll have to go and do a missing person. So he went to do a missing person. And he called me and said that the police basically told him DeAngelo was an adult. He didn't have to check in with his mom and dad, that he was probably laying up with some woman. They say he might be in jail. They gave all these excuses why he wasn't missing instead of just doing a missing person. So I called him back and I told him DeAngelo has mental health issues. He's bipolar and he has paranoid schizophrenia. And I know, at least in Alabama, if an adult has mental health issues, if they're elderly, have Alzheimer's, then there's a special alert that has to be issued called a silver alert. It's like an amber alert, but instead of for children, it's for endangered adults. So I requested that they do a silver alert because of my son's mental health issues, and they were well documented, so that people would know that he was missing and he was endangered. The police did not do it. What they did was they put him in NCIC, and at the time I didn't know what NCIC was. It's the National Crime Information System, something like that, which only law enforcement officers have access to. So regular, normal people wouldn't see that he was missing or that people were looking for him, only law enforcement. If he had been arrested, if he had got pulled over and got a ticket, then it would alert that police department that, hey, people are looking for him. So because I know I get the Amber Alerts to my phone, when I didn't get an alert about DeAngelo missing, I kept calling the police department saying, are y'all sure y'all filed the missing person? Because I haven't got any alerts to my phone. I'm checking missing person databases. He's not in there. And they kept assuring me that they had. So finally, the police had agreed to do the missing person. My son and I both made it back to Anniston and started looking for him. We were able to log into his Cash App and his Facebook, so we were able to read the last messages he had. And the last messages that he had on his phone were on Facebook, and he was texting people that were inside the house where he lived. So we know that was the last place he was. He didn't leave with a phone. He didn't leave with clothes or anything. He hadn't used his Cash App since the 20th, so he wasn't using any money. I talked to the woman that he was living with at the time and was asking her questions. I asked about his phone, and she said he had dropped his phone in the toilet, and she had taken it and put it in some rice to dry it out. And I asked, where was the phone? And she said, well, it's still at the house in some rice. And I asked her, could I have his phone? And she said yes. And in the 20 minutes it took to get to her house to get the phone, she said somebody had stolen the phone. And she said, in fact, somebody had stolen her phone and her son's phone. So nobody had a phone. The people that he had been communicating with on Facebook, I messaged all of them. I called them and asked them when had they last seen him. And it was always around the 20th or the 21st. I screenshotted all their messages. I took pictures of their Facebook pages because half of them had deleted their old Facebook pages and made new ones after the 21st. So I take all this information to the police that Monday, and I tell them I am very concerned. I think something has happened to my son. I don't think you're going to find him alive and well, just because of the stories that we were hearing as we were looking for him. And even though I told the police all of this, that I thought he was in danger, there was no sense of urgency. There was no feeling of compassion. So I had a friend that knew a news reporter, and she contacted that news reporter. And that's how his story kind of finally got out. It wasn't because of anything the police did. They didn't issue an alert. There wasn't anything on TV. There wasn't anything on their social media. There was nothing out there saying my son was missing and that he was in danger and we were looking for him. In fact, I did a flyer saying he was in danger, and the police corrected it and said they didn't know if he was in danger. So fast forward is October 14th, and it had been 2 weeks since we contacted the police about DeAngelo. And during these 2 weeks, my family had been organizing search parties with just our family and our friends. We had been going out into the wooded area close to where he was living, looking for him. We hadn't been able to find anything. We had been questioning people, kind of doing our own police work because we weren't getting any support from the police. Everything we would find out, we would turn over to the police. But I said there just wasn't that sense of urgency. And it's like that a lot of times if you are Black and missing, it's not that you're not that priority. I watched Gabby Petito's story and saw the helicopters and all the search teams and the dogs, and maybe I'm delusional because of what we see on TV, but I was really kind of expecting the police to organize search parties and to call in the dogs and to do all of these things, and it didn't happen. So we were out in the woods doing searches for my son on our own, and we didn't know what we were doing. It was so unorganized, and it was such a large area to cover, and we didn't really have any help. So we were just trying to do the best we could. And somebody had called and said that my son had been murdered and that he had been buried in the backyard of where he was staying. And so we had went and got shovels, and we were going to dig that lady's yard up to look for my son. And she called the police on us. And the police officer that showed up was a female officer. And I'm standing outside with this shovel, and she walked up to me and she said, "You're his mom?" And I said, "Yes." And she just hugged me. And that was the first time I felt any kind of compassion from the police. And she said, "If that was my son, I would dig up this whole yard if I had to find him." And this is October 14th. And she called the police station, and on that day they sent police out, they sent dogs out, that was the first time that we really saw action from the police. Before that, there was nothing. So that next day, I started calling the FBI. I called ALEA, the Alabama Law Enforcement Agency, and I was asking about the alert because at October 14th, 2 weeks later, I still had not gotten an alert. Okay, so I'm trying to be careful about what I say because it is an ongoing police investigation. But when I on that October 14th, when I called ALEA and called the FBI and was asking about the alerts and the missing person database because my son still wasn't in any of them, they called the police department, and October 14th, the alerts came out saying there's a 31-year-old black man missing from Anniston, Alabama. It was on social media. I got the alert to my phone from the emergency management agency. Like, everything was blowing up. But this was October 14th. All those things should have happened on September 29th when we reported my son missing and saying he had a mental health issue. The police department was required by law to issue that alert, and they failed to do it because, like I said, there was never a sense of urgency. There was never DeAngelo it didn't feel like he was being prioritized. His safety was not being prioritized. The police just didn't seem concerned. And so I took to social media and I wrote a post about it, and the police chief told a reporter that they were following every lead. They were doing everything they were supposed to. This was not a TV show, and the case was not going to be solved in an hour. He was more upset about what I said about them on social media than he was about my son's safety, his well-being, his family being able to find him. It's been 102 days since DeAngelo has been missing. I know my son didn't just walk away. I know he didn't just leave on his own. But whatever condition, state he's in, I just want to find my son. I just want to bring him home. I don't want him to just be missing forever. I want us to be able to have some kind of closure. Because it is different when your son is just missing. Like, I don't know what to do with missing. You don't get the chance to say goodbye. You don't get to do any of those things that you need to be able to move on and start the healing process. I'm sorry. But I just wanted to give you a little bit of information about what has happened to DeAngelo. There's a reason why he's not home.
And that's really where the investigation stands for right now. There are a few things that I think are really important to be highlighted in what Adisa talked about, but I also want to give you more details about what's been happening and what the family has been facing and some of the information that's come out. Because as Adisa said, they don't believe DeAngelo is alive anymore and able to be brought home alive. First, I think the end of that story time really highlights how hard it can be on families not only to have to be in the position that Adisa and her family are in, where they are searching for D basically on their own. Then on top of that, having someone in your family missing is so hard. It's almost worse than knowing what happened. Like she said, you can't move on, you can't grieve. And so these are the things that really truly weigh on families in these situations. I also want to point out that the girlfriend and her adult son that were talked about are Keither Snyder and Gavin Snyder, who I mentioned earlier. I was on the fence about including their names because Adisa did not in her videos. And obviously, like I said, everything is absolutely alleged. None of this has been proven, and nobody has been arrested in relation to this disappearance or this case. But, I mean, their names are out there, and people do know them, and their, like, mugshots are being shared and stuff like that. So, I would rather include it with the disclaimer that nobody's been arrested and nothing's been proven than just not acknowledging that their names are pretty obvious if you just look for them. So that's who we're talking about in most of these situations. And so what led up to this belief that DeAngelo is no longer here is not only the fact that, you know, he hasn't been in contact with his daughter or any of his children. He has multiple children, has not been in contact with any of them. The fact that he has not been in contact with any of his family, that he is not using his Cash App or his phone. Well, we know he doesn't have his phone, but he is not using his Cash App, which is obviously his main form of transactions from what it seems like Adisa is saying. So those are some really big red flags of like, something's not right here. He's not just missing. Something's wrong. He didn't run off on his own. And plus the idea that the alert never went out for him being an endangered missing person until a month later is horrifying, because while people with paranoid schizophrenia and bipolar disorder can live fulfilling lives and take care of themselves and all that, if they are missing and they don't have any way to contact people, they're not using money, you have to wonder if something happened. Did something get messed up with their medication? Are they, is something going on? And so people need to be on the lookout if that's the situation. He would have been in direct danger at that point, and not necessarily a danger to other people, but a danger to himself, of being put in situations that he wasn't equipped to handle in those moments. And so there's a lot of balls have been dropped here. On top of everything else that's been shared, what really helped contribute to the idea that DeAngelo is no longer with us is a series of screenshotted messages that were sent to DeAngelo's family. These have been shared publicly through the Facebook page and TikTok that is made to search for D, and they've been shared by Adisa. Otherwise, sometimes I don't share stuff like this unless the family is putting it out there as a resource or evidence. And so in that situation they have, which is why I want to talk about them. These screenshots include a conversation between two people that discuss the murder of D. Allen and the disposal of his body. As a warning, these messages aren't necessarily graphic, but they are upsetting. Jesse Trawick, who was or is in a relationship with Hallie Taylor, allegedly had the following conversation in Facebook Messenger. Originally looking at these messages, I had an entire theory about what this conversation was, why it took place, and why the messages were shared with Dee's family. Looking back at other posts and information that's been shared, I don't know the actual context. So as we move forward and look at these messages, just know that it's a conversation that took place between Jesse Trawick and Hallie Taylor, and those messages were then shared with Dee's family. It seems like a woman whose name I couldn't quite pin down spoke to Jesse regarding what she witnessed when the murder occurred. And allegedly this murder occurred at the hands of Dee's girlfriend and her son. Please keep in mind that all of this is alleged, and while I do trust the family as a source, absolutely, I got these screenshots from the family's social media page and not from an official channel. Hallie, he's still alive in my mind. Jesse, it's something similar in my head. Hallie, but how if they killed him? Jesse, I thought he was alive for a while. He's gone, darlin'. Hallie, how sure are you though? Where is his body? Jesse, I don't know why the bitch would lie, but about 98% sure. I doubt we recover his remains. Hallie, why? Just tell me, Jake. I can't find a ride to you, bruh. I need to fucking know. I'm going crazy. Jesse, I want to, but it seems disrespectful. Hallie, the beginning of this message is cut off, so it starts at, like I want to know. They know I'm close to y'all. That's why they listen to what I gotta tell them, because they know I trusted y'all as Dee's friends to help me help them find Dee. Jesse, we probably ain't gonna find him, but look, man. Hallie, they burned him, I'm sure of it. Jesse, and sent his bones off in the trash with the trash pickup. Hallie, where did they burn him? Jesse, she said she was inside scared as F while Gavin and Keither mutilated his body in the backyard before burning him. The girl broke down to me bad. Hallie, we already knew this. We need the body, though. We need a location. What garbage did they put him in? Jesse, like the fucking trash can the city pick up, the green ones at the house, they burnt him right there in the backyard and shot him right there in the GD living room. Keither demanded Gavin to pull the trigger. It's these text messages, along with several other rumors and more information from other people, that all add up to DeAngelo's family believing that this is what happened to him, that he was killed at the hands of his girlfriend and her son over some dispute in the house. And even before this information came out, even before these messages were shared with the family or with the public, Dee's family has been fighting tirelessly, both for more coverage in the traditional media and other media for Dee, but also for police to just be involved and help. As I said, given Dee's disabilities, I truly am horrified that police were not kicking it into higher gear or sending out the notifications they were supposed to be sending out about his disappearance. We know that bad things can happen to people with bipolar disorder and schizophrenia, and it has nothing to do with what they're going to do to other people, but everything to do with the situations they can get themselves in. Already, I'm sure his family had been horrified and worried and just wanted to know where he was before that, but now after getting these messages and hearing all this information, they are now horrified and struggling with the fact that they think their son and brother and father and, ex-boyfriend, spouse, whatever, all of them are terrified that he has been killed and the police are going to do nothing about it, and that the people who killed him are going to get away with it. I think the most obvious thing that Adisa spoke about was that they didn't send out the alert, the silver alert for DeAngelo, despite the fact that they were absolutely supposed to on September 29th. But somehow it gets worse. I don't know how, but somehow it does. Let me fill you in. So Adisa mentioned making a Facebook post about the police involvement in Dee's disappearance, and Dee's father, Doreen Allen, also made a few posts like this. I think a lot of people did, because they weren't seeing the police out there doing things. As she said, they were the ones searching the woods. They were the ones trying to get his name out there, and the police are supposed to search if someone's missing. They are supposed to be doing these types of searches. And so, while I do agree with her that TV has skewed our idea of what investigations are supposed to look like, this next thing I'm going to tell you is totally out of line, no matter what your opinion is on the situation. In response to some of the early posts about police, lack of efforts, what was perceived as lack of efforts, at least, were responded to by the police in not nice ways. They were a little rude, a little push-offish. And so at that point, when that happened, lots of people started commenting on various posts that belonged to the Anniston Police Department. And there was one specific one that I saw that kind of blew all this up, which they shared their accomplishments, like of crime statistics, that they were like, yay, look at what we did. And so people were like, yeah, but you let murderers run free, or this, black man is still missing, and you don't seem to be concerned about it. And I'm going to share some screenshots to give you the full context. But no matter your opinion, I think we can all agree that the police handled this in the worst way possible. Like, if any way you could have handled this, this was not it at all. Just no. On January 18, 2023, Adisa shared a Facebook post breaking down what happened in the Anniston Police Department's Facebook comments, as well as screenshots of the comments themselves. Basically, Dee's father, who goes by Bookie Allen, and his wife, Amanda, Dee's stepmother, were both commenting on posts of the Anniston Police Department's Facebook. The actual comments and posts have since been deleted, but from what I've gathered, The post was about statistics of the department celebrating arrests they'd made. And Chief Bowles has admitted, even in these comments, that he was the one making these replies. One comment from Amanda's Dee's stepmother said, 159 reports taken and only 35 arrests, 12 being felony and 23 being misdemeanor. All we want is for APD to admit that our son was murdered and turn the case over to the district. APD is a municipality. They investigate and convict misdemeanors. All felonies must be bound over. My murdered son is a felony. Why is he still listed as just a missing person? We have people talking. Give the investigation to another department. The Anniston Police Department needs to just admit that they screwed up and give us justice. And to this, APD's reply was, it's called evidence. I'm coming with big facts soon. This screenshot that I'm showing you doesn't show the original comment being replied to, but the two replies by APD say, 1, it's called evidence and confidence. I'm done with that though. And 2, it's coming. It's not going to be pretty. Now in this third thread, I'm not completely sure if the first comment is genuine or sarcastic, but it is by someone that I don't know to be involved with Dee or his family. And this is what the thread read. Comment 1. Thank you, APD, for all your work and help keeping the streets safe from drug addict and drunk driving related cases. In reply to that comment, Bookie said, yes, and disregard missing people. So then APD replied to Bookie, you know exactly how much we've done and how many hours we've spent on it. Tomorrow will be a new day for revelations. I'm done with this internet BS. Winky face emoji. In this next screenshot also, we can't see the original comment, but Bookie replied, whoever is behind the keyboard here seems to be taking this personal with the snappy comments. And to that, Chief Bowles replied, I am taking it personal. This is Chief Bowles. My guys have busted their butts on this, and I'm tired of internet commandos trying to talk smack that they know nothing about. We work on facts, not rumors. Not I've heard. Facts. In this string of comments, someone commented, this is too close to home and unsettling. They told y'all who was involved. What more do you need? And the APD replied, EVIDENCE. And in the final comments thread between Bookie and APD, the following was said. In the first comment, someone said, y'all said if you filed a missing person report for someone and they turn out not to be missing, then y'all would look bad. How do y'all look now and y'all are letting murderers go free? And Bookie replied to them, that's exactly what they told me. To Bookie, the APD replied, you were told we had to make sure he was missing. He's an adult. Y'all reported him missing 9 days later. Just wait. I'm releasing everything tomorrow. You want it? You got it. Bookie, you need to update your facts. When my ex-wife told me y'all haven't talked to her since before Christmas, I was put as contact person and was told y'all would call at least once a week with updates, which never came. And Chief Bowles responded with, no, sir. You were the contact when you made the report. Then we had a meeting and Adissa was made the contact. Period. She was told she would be contacted when we had updates. I'm going to put everything, except names because that's libel, out tomorrow. I'm tired of this internet BS. Let's get to the truth, whatever it may be. Another commenter responded to a different person on this thread and said, if they would reach out to the family, someone might actually believe that. The family hasn't been given an update since October. And APD just responded with the word lies. Bookie responded, you're a lie. I was talked to yesterday, sir, for the first time in a long while. And APD responds with, you know you're not the contact for the family anymore, by your choice, so stop. Okay. So, after hearing those, oh my gosh. Just, what? What is happening? That's just not, yeah. Listen, I'm just gonna start off by saying, wow. Just, oh my gosh. And I understand it must be very hard with everything going on to feel scrutinized and attacked all the time. I'm sure that police are facing a lot of it these days. As we know, there are good people and there are bad people, but this is not a position. This is not a career path that can have bad people in it. That's the problem. It's not like a few bad ones slip through the cracks. Like, we're getting more and more bad ones as we go, but that is another conversation. Specifically to this, whoever is running the Anniston Police Department Facebook page or social media department and Chief Bowles, y'all need to get your shit together. I don't care if you're feeling attacked or unjustly criticized or like everybody's coming at you, but that does not give you the right to say things like this to the family. You can have a bad day, but you may never have a bad day at the expense of families and treating them this way very publicly. Like, it's bad enough if you do it in private, but like, you're being sarcastic as hell and rude in Facebook messages. Not even messages, comments that are public to everyone. And I think some of this has been deleted, so I'm really glad there were like multiple screenshots available. They're acting like 12-year-olds. Like, what is happening? Like, no, it's called evidence. What? You look like the SpongeBob meme. I mean, whether they want to be criticized or not, their job is to literally investigate and just take that shit. Take that anger and grief that is coming at you. And fear. I mean, there's a level of like, even if you aren't specifically involved in that situation, no one feels comfortable thinking that people who murdered someone are just wandering around. We know that is a thing, but it doesn't make anybody comfortable. So not only are the family and friends grieving, not only are the family and friends outraged by their lack of investigation, by their lack of searches, all of that information, but on top of that, the public is scared, thinking that these two murderers are out there and just living life after having killed an innocent man and disposed of him. That is the problem. And instead of being professionals who care about the family and about the public and can say, we understand your frustration, this is the deal, and then bringing the family in closer to involve them to see what they can do to help, they acted like a bunch of babies on Facebook. Y'all had a Facebook temper tantrum. And I know I'm talking about this a lot, but very specifically, these investigators are working with people during what is the worst time of their life. The worst thing that's ever happened to them. And you don't get to take out your bad day on them. And if they take their bad day out on you, yeah, that's kind of the job. You signed up for it. You don't get to act like a petty little baby because you're upset that people are saying that you aren't doing your job. And I will be the first to admit that shows like Law and Order, CSI, Criminal Minds, and even true crime videos like this one that I'm making now do put a very different light on what investigations look like in real life. While I do understand the argument that this isn't a 1-hour TV show that could be solved very quickly, at the same time, maybe if you kept the family more involved and kept them talking to them about what you were doing and were helping with the searches. I mean, even just sending out a couple of officers to help with coordinating the searches probably would have made them feel so much better. And, you know, they could have said something like, we don't have any evidence that this could be where he is, but we want to help you in your efforts. So, like, here's how we're going to lay out this search. And that would have gone a long way, but no. That's not what happened. After all this was brought to light and the public saw how extremely immature part of the Anniston Police Department, including their chief for some reason, were acting, there's been a resolution with Dee's family in regards to this. Basically, the police and Chief Bowles said that they didn't handle this well, and they resolved their communication issues with the family. And Chief Bowles also issued a public apology, which whoop-de-doo. I feel like that was the least he could do. I'm glad that the only silver lining I will say that came out of this entire thing is that Dee got more coverage because of it. Because people were like, oh my gosh, what is that police chief doing over there? And two, there was so much outrage from the public that the police have done a better job now, from what I understand, talking to his family and became more involved and officially announced that they do not believe Dee left on his own voluntarily. They do not believe DeAngelo is missing any longer of his own volition. I personally still think some disciplinary action is called for, but the family has really said that they just hope that this leads to more support in their efforts to find Dee and what happened to him. In a post on March 21st, 2023, Adissa shared that she had a very good conversation with Chief Bowles on how they can make sure all missing persons cases get the attention they should. So I will say that I'm happy APD listened and hopefully learned from the mistakes that were made. I'm also glad that Adissa felt it was a positive meeting, because that's what really matters. They've since worked with the police and the Anniston city manager to put together a plan to continue investigating what happened to Dee. Sergeant Jason Hawkins is now the lead investigator on his case, and I have a feeling that that's how most of the communication is going to go versus any other communication, because I'm sure they're trying to keep Chief Bowles as far away from them as possible. The police department has also stated that their goal is to focus on trying to give DeAngelo's family weekly updates on what's happening and what they can share with them. And on that vein, as I said before, Anniston police have finally announced that they do not believe that Dee is voluntarily missing. DeAngelo's father, Doreen, has also shared how hard this has been from his perspective and on the family as a whole. They had to go through so many holidays without DeAngelo. We're talking Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year now. And he shared some of what the repercussions have been in the family. Not only was it heartbreaking to celebrate all those holidays without their son and to face this constant fight, basically, to just try to get Dee talked about and noticed and get justice for him, but he shared some of what DeAngelo's kids are suffering with too. One of his sons has developed anger issues. Doreen shared about one of Dee's sons. I'm angry, he continued, and that's a terrible feeling because you don't have an outlet for it. Sergeant Hawkins shared that they are following up on any leads that come in, saying, we've gotten a couple of leads that panned out a little bit more than others, and those are the ones we're focused on. Additionally, Chief Bowles stated, while facts and evidence that we have at this time must remain confidential, I will state that DeAngelo's disappearance was involuntary, and we believe multiple people are involved. I'm hoping with these revelations and with even what I've just shown you in this video that more information will continue to come forward and that the police are now fully looking into possible suspects and those who may know more information, such as the conversation we talked about earlier. Dee is a black man who stands at 6'1" and he weighs between 175 and 205 pounds. He has brown eyes and black hair. He has many tattoos, including a cross on his eye and a rose on his neck. If you have any information about where Dee may be or what may have happened to him, please call the Anniston Police Department at 256-240-4000. You can also call 911. Additionally, you can submit an anonymous tip at the link I've included in the description box below. To support Dee's family, they have several social media sites you can follow them on. The Facebook page is Searching for Dee, and the TikTok handle is Searching for DeAngelo Allen. Also, if you can afford to help, DeAngelo's family does have a GoFundMe to help aid in the search for him. I know that money can be tight, and so I completely understand if you can't afford to donate. Even something as little as following their Facebook page, sharing this video, or even sharing DeAngelo's missing persons poster will go a long way to help because getting his name out there more and more will be what helps find him or helps get the right information to the right people. I would love to hear your thoughts on this case and what Dee's family has been going through. DeAngelo's family did find my previous video, so if you want to leave some love for his family and support for them in the comments, just in case they find this one as well, I'm sure they'd really appreciate that. Thank you so much for watching this update on Dee's case. Stay safe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!